Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Sarah here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Andy, and he's selling his e-commerce, Amazon, FBA, and wholesale business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Welcome to the show, Andy. How you doing today?
I'm great. Good to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you here. I'm really looking forward to talking about your business. Before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of the business. So this is an e-commerce, Amazon FBA, and wholesale business in the food and beverage niche, created in January 2010. The average monthly revenue of the business is $256,376, and it has an average of $41,946 per month in net profit, and that is based on a 12-month pricing period. Included in the sale of the business are domain and all site content and files, Amazon Seller Central account with 50 proprietary products and 200 third-party ancillary products, an email list of 250,000 subscribers and 625,000 addresses total, production equipment, manufacturing lease through 2021, trademark, social media accounts of Instagram and Facebook, SOPs, supplier contracts and relationships, and employee contracts. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 47915 to learn more about the business or to unlock the listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing. Now that I've given a general overview of the business, let's dig into the interview. So, Andy, can you tell me a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure. So my background prior to my current role was in finance. I did investment banking, worked at a private equity group, and then most recently worked at a family office. When I was at the family office, I was in charge of looking for companies they could buy that were multi-unit. So I was focusing on multi-unit restaurants and multi-unit retail. In the course of learning about opportunities in multi-unit retail, I kept hearing from the CEOs of those companies about how their business was changing due to the rise of e-commerce. In trying to educate myself about e-commerce, I got in touch with some industry experts and consultants and started becoming interested in how to help niche small brands transform from brick and mortar selling to e-commerce. So 3.5 years ago, I left the family office that I mentioned. They backed me in starting my current business, and that is, for lack of a better term, an agency or portfolio of e-commerce activities. So over the last couple of years, we have worked with a handful of companies on all aspects of their e-commerce, everything from website development to digital marketing to customer support and fulfillment. In the course of working with some of these businesses, I then became interested in using some of my more operational background to try to own businesses and not just work with them on a client relationship. And that's how this opportunity came about.
Oh, wow. It's quite the journey. And very cool to see how you've transitioned into e-commerce the way you have. Now, I'm just curious, this business, it's got a couple different ways it's monetized. So can you walk me through how this business primarily makes money?
Mm-hmm. So our revenue very consistently every month, equally balanced between three channels. So we sell direct e-commerce, we sell on Amazon through FBA, and we sell wholesale, where we sell directly to retailers that range from small mom and pops up to larger national companies. Each of those three channels we think are viable ways to grow, so we don't have a real preference one to the next. We really try to make it where people who want to buy on each channel, whether it's buying in a brick and mortar store or on Amazon or from us directly, can have a great experience.
Right. So why did you choose this business model in particular?
What I really liked about this business is how much of a niche that it is. So I mentioned how, I started our company a couple of years ago, and we've worked with a wide variety of businesses selling online. And what I've found most personally interesting and where we've kind of set up our strength is finding businesses that would be under the radar of particularly big box retailers or big online sellers, and finding ways to be able to then market to niche audiences so then they're able to buy from us online. This particular product is one that has a very strong, very consistent niche audience. And I like the fact that a lot of people might look at it on face value and think that there isn't much there, that when you actually dig into it, there's a lot of interest in what we're doing.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of the niche and niche audiences, can you just tell me a little bit more about, why did you choose this niche? Why this niche is just really working for you?
Yeah, so what we sell is a natural health food product. And I think that overall, the trends that we're hitting on are strong trends now and will continue to be in the coming years. And that is, how do people eat better, more healthily? How do they do so in a more natural way? So while there are a lot of kind of what I'll call gimmicky health food products, I think that there's going to continue to be a push toward all natural, good for you products. And then the third thing that I liked about this business and the niche that we're in is there is a high educational component in terms of how the product is made. And I think people really enjoy getting to understand a process. How do you make something that ultimately then you'll consume and make you feel better, feel more healthy?
Excellent. What I love about your story so far, it just sounds like you've got a really great eye for opportunity and, in the moment, what is really going to do well. You had quite the transition. You've gone from family offices and investment banking into here you are now. I'm curious, why do you think this business model is great for those interested in online business?
So I think that this business is one that has a lot of, for lack of a better term, kind of barriers of entry. When I see a lot of e-commerce businesses, what people are trying to do or have tried to do is get a product, typically from Asia, import a product, oftentimes just drop ship, and then try to sell it. This business is more involved in that from a production standpoint, but we see that as a barrier of entry and one of the ways that we can have a sustainable growing business. So we have our own production processes, a whole team of people that make, assemble, and fulfill the product. And through improving these processes, especially over the last year and a half, we feel like we have something that has a little bit more of a, the financial term of moat around it than a lot of online businesses that are more or less resellers.
Absolutely. Like you said, building that moat is super important and something we try to encourage for all of our businesses. Cool. So a bit of a different subject here. Why are you selling the business instead of, say, keeping it and growing it?
Mm-hmm. You referenced before the range of experiences that I've had professionally. One of the things that I've learned in my experience has been that 80% of every business is more or less the same. So when you're looking at whether it's, business A, B, or C, local business, what have you, all businesses are going to have kind of a base foundation of things you need to do marketing-wise, things you need to do accounting and analysis-wise, things you need to do as it relates to organizing, building, and managing a team. That to me is like the base, the 80% foundation of business. And that's really where my expertise and my experience lies. Yet I've also seen how in every business there is the 20% component. And that 20% component is something that is, deep industry knowledge of that particular product or that particular service. And what I have tried to do with this business is make the 80% as strong as we can make it, get a lot more organized and efficient in how we're doing marketing, operations, how the team is built out, and so forth. And I feel very happy with how all of those things have played out. What I'm realizing, and this is me personally, is that I've done what I can do with this business to drive as much value as I can. I believe that a new owner, particularly one who has some expertise in the 20% of this niche, can really take it to the next level and could take it a lot further than I can myself. You mentioned at the beginning of the intro to this that the business would be coming with team members. When I think about our team, I'm very proud of them. I'm very happy with who's on the team, and I'm very supportive in what they're doing. And as I think about that and where I think the business can go, particularly under a new owner, I would be happier and believe our team would be happier if somebody came in with more of that 20% mindset than the 80% that I've had to get it to the stable level that we're at now.
I think that's an excellent answer. It kind of tees me up to my next question. We're talking about like the 80% and what you found to have really worked in this business. Tell me a little bit more about what you learned from building this that just seemed to really work for you. Perhaps that really leans on your prior business experience, or perhaps it's something entirely new from building this. But I'm just curious about the things that worked and have really played out well.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we've had to do with this business since I stepped into it was right size the fixed cost. One of the issues that the prior owners had is they had signed a lease on a facility that was way too large. They had overhired in a number of categories and had made it where the only way that they were going to be able to have the business make money long term was for it to be doing like 5 times the amount of revenue than it was at the time. Going back to the idea of this being a niche, what I thought the play could be was saying, revenue is, in the near term may not be 5x. So we have to figure out how to do things more efficiently for the revenue that we have to be able to turn out profitable. So over the last couple of years, we've right-sized, for lack of a better term, all aspects of the business. We've gotten into a facility that is the right size, the right price, and that can do, as we've proven over the last couple months, much more revenue than we may have thought of before. So we have room for growth there. We have a team that is right-sized again, and everybody has a clear idea of what they're to be doing, what their metrics are, and so forth. And then we've made production processes that not only allow us to make our product more efficiently, but will allow the business to scale up as needed in each of our categories. So getting back to your question in terms of what have I learned, the thing that I've taken the most pride in learning is how do you set up particularly a team where everybody knows what they're to be doing, where everything is organized and clear, and be able to make it so that now all of a sudden, like, fewer people are able to do more than the work that a lot more people were doing before. Same idea for our facility. We've put in a lot more organization, barcoding, and what have you that has allowed what have seemingly been too small or too tight several years ago to now being a strength of our organization. So long-winded answer, but in a nutshell, the thing that I've learned is how much focus and organization can really help a business as it comes into, how do you make money?
Oh, it's an excellent answer, and really amazing, the transformation that you just went over, where it was when you inherited it versus, where the business is now. It's really cool. And of course, I do have to ask this question. I know you have made so many improvements to the business, but of course, everyone's going to run into things and challenges along the way. So, from your entrepreneurial perspective, what were the things that you tried that, say, didn't work for you?
Early thing that the prior owner was trying that I continued down the course of, eventually just turned in to be a dead end, was selling non-food ancillary products on the site. So the prior owner and our team has tried to really understand, okay, who is our customer? Why is it that they are buying the health food products that we're selling? And in understanding or trying to understand the customer psychographic, we thought, hey, well, there are these other things that they do that are also niches. Could those be things that we sell to them as well? And as it turned out, we spent a lot of money on that inventory. We were ultimately able to sell it a lot on discount, but even when it was moving, it wasn't turning as fast as it needed to. So we weren't net making any money on it. And it wasn't in any way helping the main part of our business. If anything, it was hurting the main part of our business because it required a lot more time, energy, and money to be tracking and buying inventory for these ancillary categories. So nothing ventured, nothing gained. I mean, it was a good exercise into what are other ways that we might be able to grow revenue here. But ultimately, what it's made us focus on now is saying, okay, this business is really about health food. So what are other health food products that we can sell? And we're starting to have really good traction on things that weren't originally part of our product catalog that we are now using to help grow.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we kind of covered both sides, what's worked and what hasn't worked, but I know that you have this deep entrepreneurial experience. So I'm wondering, what advice would you give to our listeners that you would wish you'd known when you had started your journey?
So I'm an optimist by nature. You've got the saying, glass half empty, glass half full. I'm probably averaging 95% full at any given time. And I think that that's a necessary trait for any entrepreneur because inevitably you're going to try things that aren't going to work. You're going to try things that work so well that then that creates stress in terms of how do you get more orders out or how do you hire a couple great people fast. The point being, there are going to be things that go wrong. And if there's any advice that I would give to somebody who is looking to be an entrepreneur, it would be to say, assume that things are going to go wrong and have an attitude and a stomach that makes it so that you're willing and able to go along for the ride when those things go wrong. And then also related to that, if and when things go wrong, really kind of stress test why did it. And sometimes, like my honest answer to myself is, well, I was being overly optimistic. I thought it would be too easy, or I thought that this was going to be too much of a win. And really understanding, the why and the how has made me better. And I'd like to think that my team thinks I'm better as a manager or as an owner as I've learned that and internalized that.
I think that's absolutely solid advice. Very cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about your traffic. I mean, I understand that you have just a crazy amount of monthly visitors. You've got excellent traffic running to your site. So paint me a picture of that. Where does the majority of your traffic come from?
The majority of our traffic comes from organic search. So people searching for something primarily on Google, and one of our many content pages ranking high on those searches. Our site has a couple thousand content pages, and those are everything from how-to videos related to how to make our products at home, to troubleshooting tips, to hundreds of recipes, all kinds of fun things for people interested in this niche to do to further their education on how to make our products, the benefits of them, and so forth. That's really the fun part of this business. It's that we've created this resource center of great information. And then as people find that information through their searches, they are then able to tie it back to the products that we're selling and in a very easy way know what to buy, how to buy it, and then what to do with it once they've received. Outside of our organic traffic, we really try to do the best we can on capturing email and then sending very thoughtful automated email campaigns based on what people are looking at and what they like. So our second highest way of driving traffic is email, and that has proven to be our number one source of direct e-commerce revenue. Outside of those large traffic drivers, we also do a lot of the typical things that an e-commerce company would to drive traffic. We have PPC ads, we have paid social ads, we do organic social, we have affiliate and blog links. Everything is, I'm sure many of your listeners know, in e-commerce comes down to how do you drive traffic, and then from there, how do you get it to convert? So every day our team is working on ways that we can do that and how we improve, our offerings, particularly as it relates to the content that we have on our site.
Excellent. So you started getting into this in a way. I want to make sure that we're not missing anything. So I know email is a super important part of your traffic, and I know it's a certain part of your marketing engine. But tell me more about your marketing engine. What are you doing to market the business? And just walk me through that a bit.
Sure. So organic traffic being the leader for us, in order for us to have that continue to grow, we need to have good, timely content. So we have people on our team that are looking for new recipes or are creating new how-to videos, or will hear questions from customers that are getting emailed in and then turn those into content for our site. Second, as I mentioned before, we put a lot of effort into email. So that is not just putting together what we call the batch and blast newsletters, but it's also coming up with automated campaigns that have some logic built into them, not only when they get sent, but the sequence and order in which they get sent. The automated campaigns really are what we consider to be our bread and butter. So we have a team member who spends a lot of his time on not only thinking through and putting together those automated campaigns, but also on the back end, looking at all the analytics to see what's working and what's not. And say if we have a 12-part automated campaign, we might find that it's the fifth email in that campaign where people drop off. So through his fine eye on analytics, he would know to then go in, rework that email, switch it out, take it out, what have you, so that we're able to get people through the email flows that we have. And then from there, we work with SEO agency to help again with the content. We work with PR agency to help with reaching out to new bloggers, affiliate influencers, so they could be aware of our product and use it, as on their sites, on their social media presence, and so forth. And then finally, I've mentioned how wholesale is a big channel for us. Our marketing for wholesale includes a person who's a dedicated outreach and support person for the variety of stores that we sell to. And then we also advertise our product on wholesale, or through wholesale distributors at wholesale trade shows and so forth.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited to get into this next part. It's one of my favorite parts of the interviews. Let's talk about opportunities and growth potential here. So, if you were to keep this business, what are some ways that you would try to grow it?
So there are three primary ways. One, we are always looking how to make our products easier to use and make at home. So one of the things that we are working on is retooling some of the products so that they can either be easier to make or they can go into what we call kits. And the kits could then be a way for our customer to be able to not only use our product, but have all of the utensils and supplies that they need at one time. We've seen a lot of growth in kits in our space, and we think that we could use our knowledge to create better offerings, and that in turn can both attract new customers and have them be so excited about the products that they've made with us that then they will come back and try another one. So that's the first. The second is something I referenced earlier, and that is the idea that if we're going to be all in on that kind of these niche health food space, then what are some products that fit within that we're not already offering? And fortunately, the space that we're in has had a lot of growth over the last couple of years. So through that growth, we've had all kinds of ideas come to us in terms of other products we could be offering that are similar to what we have now, but that would be in addition. And then the third ties back to our wholesale program. Our wholesale program is primarily focused on small, independent, mom and pop, co-op type shops. There is a very clear case to make that some large national, multi-hundred store chains could be ideal places for our product to be sold. So one of the things that we are looking into is how do we crack those larger accounts, because selling to any one of those would be huge benefit to our business, would be transformational in terms of how we do it. So combining the outreach with some of this product retooling that I mentioned before, I think is going to be the big unlock for our business and will be what takes it to be multiple the size that it is now.
I love that. Love hearing that there are some transformational growth opportunities right on your doorstep. I don't always get to hear that every interview. So it's very cool to hear about the potential that you guys have going for you. Now, of course, we try to cover both sides of the story. So, what would you say are the biggest risks with a business that a buyer should be aware of?
Probably the top one would be our organic traffic and how ultimately with that we're, for lack of a better term, beholden to Google. So we try to solve our organic traffic by simply creating great content that we think is going to be useful for people who are looking for good information. And we always think of Google as being a partner in that, they also want to be able to provide good results for people seeking information. That said, as we all know, Google is out to make money, and Google frequently can change their algorithm. And if something changed in a way that we didn't foresee, I could see there being some risk to some element of our organic traffic. I kind of chalk that up to, it's always going to be changing. And that's part of the reason why we need to be nimble in terms of how we make and refresh our content. But it's something that's always top of mind.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, can you tell me a little bit about just the type of work you're doing on the business for maintenance?
Sure. So I personally started in working on this business 3.5 years ago. And as I mentioned, a lot of what I was really focused on was the foundational, what I call like the 80% aspect to the work. So in the first 2 years or so, I was personally doing a lot of work on this business. I was involved in all of the weekly meetings. I was at the facility a lot. I was in the details on how we did marketing, how we did operations, how the product was getting made, who our vendors were, how we were ordering from them, and so forth. My goal all along in being so involved was to slowly chip away at my involvement and replace the work that I was doing either with automation, so like putting together spreadsheets that will help us automatically know what products to order or what products to make, as opposed to me having to work a spreadsheet each week to do that, or by putting really good team members in place and giving them some insight into what I had been doing in their role, so they had a little bit of training, but then they also had the requisite expertise to be able to figure out how to take it from there. So as the team has improved, as processes have improved, my involvement with the business has become less and less important. So currently I am doing 2 meetings a week. One meeting is with all the team members over the phone, talking through the plan for the week, anything that came up, anything we need to be thinking of. And then the other meeting is all around inventory planning and just making sure that I have an eye on what we're making, where we're investing money in inventory, how our production team is shaping out. In both of those meetings, I wouldn't say that I'm the lead. I'm more wanting to make sure that the path that our team is going down is the right one, and that if I feel as though we're ever heading off path, that I could give my 2 cents. But I'm very thankful for the fact that the team right now is operating well and doing all that we need to be able to make inventory and sell it without a significant amount of my time week to week. Beyond those 2 weekly meetings, we'll get called in here and there to take a look at something, to help somebody remember how something used to be done or what have you. But it's certainly not as operationally intensive as it was in the early years of when I was involved.
Yeah, excellent. I know that you have quite the team put in place and they are kind of running the gamut for everything that needs to be handled for the business. So it's definitely a value add for the buyer for sure. What sort of, say, skills or requirements might there be for someone not familiar with this niche or business model?
I would say that if somebody came with food production experience, that would be very helpful. I did not come in with that. As I was trying to learn the business, I leaned on a friend who's a professional chef, and he helped with how we were doing some of the larger scale production products. I would say that somebody who has an interest in healthy eating and healthy living would be very helpful. Understanding, how having an interest in that would really help with what are the channels that we could or should be looking at to market, who are the people that could be great spokespeople for our product, and how could our products be used in ways that maybe we're not thinking now. And then beyond that, I would say somebody who has just general business experience would be well suited to run this, because a lot of what we're doing is not too dissimilar from a lot of base businesses, particularly in the e-commerce realm.
Great. These are a few kind of rapid fire questions. How much support are you offering buyers?
So I really want our team to do well. These are people that I've worked with for years and have, in all but a couple cases, personally hired. So in wanting them to do well, by extension, I want the business to do well. So I am more than willing to help a buyer in transitioning the business for as long as that buyer needs. I think for the sake of the business, it would be helpful for both the buyer and me to have a clear outline of what the buyer would need and how I could help. But I certainly want to be of assistance as I can.
Excellent. Would you commit to a non-compete?
Yes.
And are you open to something like an earn-out?
Yes.
Okay. A few personal things. Was there anyone who inspired you while building this business that our listeners might like as well? So that could be a podcast. It could be Facebook communities, maybe someone personally, I'm not really sure. But yeah, just somebody that if they're looking for resources, they might want to tune into what you've been listening to.
Sure. One of my business heroes, so to speak, and particularly for this business, is Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, the outdoor clothing brand. What I like about Yvon's outlook is the idea that first, a business needs to survive to be able to support the people in that business. And I think that ties well to a niche business like this. That brings to the second point, and that is I loved how Yvon has built Patagonia from, making one product, climbing holds, to now being involved, in a wide variety of products of sports selling all over the world. And it's that kind of like slow growth of adding in areas that not only I have respect for, but I've thought a lot about as it relates to this business. And then finally, Patagonia obviously has a strong environmental component. And there are aspects of this business that I believe are absolutely better for the environment than their alternatives. And one of the reasons why when we talk about this business being environmentally sustainable is something that we take pride in.
Oh, I love that. Patagonia is actually one of my personal favorites. So very cool to realize I'm not alone in that. They're excellent storytellers as well. So just great all around. Okay, so how about this? Let's talk about software and tools. Is there anything that might have helped you at the start of running this business, or maybe just something you found valuable throughout that our listeners might like as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we stepped into this business, I mentioned earlier about how it was kind of overbuilt. It had too much fixed cost. It had too many people for the size that it was. One of the reasons for that was the platforms that they were using, both on e-commerce, in marketing, and then specifically in email. So one of the things that we have done over the last year and a half is a couple really important, what we call replatforms. So we moved the e-commerce site to Shopify, and that has been awesome. Shopify is really easy to use. It is easy to understand and great to be able to train somebody up on. And it has all of the things that you need to not only get up and running, to be able to scale. So switching to Shopify has saved us a lot of money and has also improved our site's conversion. The second replatform that we've done is to Klaviyo email platform. We have worked on, through both this business and others, a variety of email platforms, some that are very hard to use, some that are easy to use but don't have many options, particularly as it relates to automated campaigns. Klaviyo is the best of both worlds in that it is very easy to use, but has great analytics and automations, and has been a real help to the email program here. And then the final is Xero, which is an accounting software. We have loved being on that platform and how easy it has been to integrate with our other platforms so that we know how much money we're making, how that breaks down by channel and so forth. I've always been a believer in the idea that, unless you know the numbers of your business, you don't really know your business. So having a good, simple, easy to use, inexpensive accounting platform has been very valuable for us as well.
All right. So, Andy, what would you say drove you and motivated you while having this business?
I really want to see this business be sustainable. And when I say sustainable, that's, an ability to be able to be alive, so to speak, each year and have a long-term growth plan or growth trajectory. When I stepped into the business, what I saw or what I found was it had a lot of very passionate customers, a lot of interest in what they were doing, but it was not financially sustainable. So we obviously had to solve for that. And in solving for that, I have an even deeper appreciation for who our customers are, and then also who our team is and how much pride they take in making the product, selling the product, supporting the product that we have. So to me, the driver was just the simple idea that, this is a product that people like. This is a business that people like, both as customers and working for. And putting those together, the motivation for me was figuring out a way to make sure that it could continue on.
Great answer. So this is my final question. It's definitely one of my favorite ones. Putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
So when I stepped into this business, as I mentioned before, it was one that was unorganized at best. It did not have many processes. It had issues with production. It had inefficiencies with marketing and so forth. We've really tried to solve for that. So now it's a business that doesn't create the level of headaches that it certainly was at the beginning. And in doing that, I believe we have now set up the next owner to be able to focus on growth. I think that by not having to worry about this thing breaking or this thing not working or this product being out of stock because of this production process, now it will give a buyer headspace and, frankly, cash flow to be able to think bigger and think longer so that more effort can be put into scaling the business as opposed to stabilizing the business.
Excellent. No, I love that. I think, like you said, it's just there's a lot of runway for this buyer. The business has been put in an amazing place. Definitely appreciate having you on this call and just running through the nuts and bolts of this. It's a really exciting business.
Thank you.
I do appreciate having you on and definitely looking forward to seeing how things play out for you.
Absolutely. I appreciate your help.
Yeah. All right. Well, for everyone out there listening, thanks for tuning in. To check out more details on this business or to unlock the listing, visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 47915. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. By unlocking the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about the business and can start your due diligence. Until next time.